All right, we are live for the Week 4 edition of the DFS Discourse Show, brought to you by the Fantasy Coaches Podcast and Unwrapped Sports Network. Thank you guys for tuning in. As you know, my name is Jesse Clark. I am your host for this evening. I am joined by my friend and partner in crime here, Joe Andre. I will let you introduce yourself, and then we will get this thing kicking.
Hey, what's going on, guys? You can find me on Twitter at JVA or FFJVAPHL. So we both had a good week. It was a great week 3. We hit on the spots that we wanted to hit on. That Seattle-Dallas game hit the way we needed it to. We had a few other hits, and let's get to week 4.
Absolutely, yeah. And I neglected to mention my Twitter. You can follow me at jcrockett24. Shout out to Tick Season. How you doing? Thank you for tuning in. Feel free to comment on lineup questions throughout the stream. We will be happy to make sure we address those. Obviously, it makes it a little more fun and engaging for you guys to comment on your questions. So happy to do that. Thank you guys for joining us. That being said, you're right. I mean, week 3 was a good one. We didn't have a crazy 5-figure day or anything crazy like that, but doubled my money. I feel like you did well, according to our discussions, you did pretty well as well. We hit on that, or at least I know I did. I picked right. I picked right this week between Wilson and Lockett. Faded Metcalf for the most part, going with Lockett. A couple other guys that we hit on were James Conner was a very under-the-radar running back choice that I kind of pivoted to later in the week that I did not expect to be on. And then obviously your staples, that Seattle Seahawks offense. We had a few other blow-up performances from the other side as well. Gallup helped a lot, finally breaking out.
Derrick Henry.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, that was a big call for us as well after we, got let down in week 2, went back to him in week 3, and he paid off. So we did not have the Minnesota offense. Obviously, didn't expect that Dalvin Cook or Justin Jefferson performance. But for the most part, we had quite a few things, wrong. Like Deshaun Jackson just drives me crazy. That's 2 out of 3 weeks that I have gone to him, and he has let me down. Who else did we fade? CeeDee Lamb really didn't have as good of a performance as I expected as well. So all in all, I played the lineups that I didn't play Russ. I actually played Dak in a lot. So I felt like I had both sides of that game, and I did pretty well. So let's keep this momentum rolling. I'll just, preface everything by saying, and we said it in our article, we'll say it in our article here coming out either tonight or tomorrow morning as well. This is harder. Let's just be honest. This week's harder. This week is not as clear cut for us. I generally have a feeling going into the week if, okay, this is going to be a good week for me. I can narrow my options down. I feel pretty confident in my contrarian picks, those types of things. But, it is what it is. We'll just have to make the best of it. I'm probably going to play a little lighter than I normally do in this week 4. And then, you just kind of save your bankroll, hope that you hit. And starting Gronk over Mike, that is a risk I do not think I'm willing to take.
I'm gonna lay off that one.
I appreciate you guys commenting though, yeah. And Cedric Wilson, I mean, gosh, what a complete nightmare. I completely agree. Did not do us well in week 3, but we're on to week 4. So let's preview some of these big high over-under totals according to Vegas. We have quite a few of them this week. There is not just 1 or 2 games that stick out that are over 50 points. We have quite a few. So I'll let you kind of take it away and start us off with the first game that we'll preview.
All right, so we're gonna start with Seattle-Miami. Seattle comes into this game. They've let Russ cook 14 touchdowns through 3 games. On Miami's side, they come in well rested after playing on Thursday night. Right now, Jamal Adams and Byron Jones do not look like they will be playing in this game. We were very fortunate the first 3 weeks to have the rotation of Atlanta, Dallas, and Seattle play each other where, like Jesse was saying, it was all the chalk. I mean, in the sense that we knew who we were going to play. This week is definitely different for the first time, where there's not one set shootout that we're going to be looking at. But if there was a game that could almost match that description, it's this game with the injuries that are coming in on both sides of the ball. So I would say you got the Miami side, one, underpriced, and two, looking like they're going to be very under-earned in this game. You got Fitz at 7%, projection of 7%. Devontae Parker, this is the one you were telling me about this morning too. I could not believe he's only going to be projected at 7%. That's just wild to me. Gesicki at 7%. So you got that Miami side that's going to be very cheap. If you wanted to go where if you just went Fitz and pair him up with either Gesicki, Parker, you can even go both. Or if you really wanted to get creative and go like an Isaiah Ford against a Seattle secondary that's been just slapped around by slot receivers, you can go that route too. And you can just pair up the other side of the ball. If you want to go Lockett, Metcalf, you want to go Lockett, Metcalf, you can go. It's hard to get Wilson in with everybody because, I mean, the price difference between Wilson and Fitz is $2,400. I mean, that's pretty substantial. But it doesn't really matter what way you go here. It's just more or less you hit the pieces that you want to go with. I would imagine Lockett's going to be more popular this week over Metcalf just based off that 40 DK point performance. But
what does that mean? What does that mean? What do you think that means?
It feels like it's going to be a Metcalf week this week.
We're on Metcalf, baby.
Yep, I guess the only thing with that is they're both projected for the same ownership. They're only $200 off, but I feel better with Metcalf. Even though it's just a projection, I still think Lockett's going to see higher ownership than Metcalf this week. And I want to get on the lower end again, because that was the same thing as last week. Lockett was under-owned compared to Metcalf, and that's what we were saying last week. We wanted to get on the Lockett end just so we can kind of like get off some of that high ownership on Metcalf. Both are great players, but we kind of want to zig where they zag a little bit.
You're absolutely right. And the one thing that I'm a little nervous about in this game, well, I guess two things. One is I'm probably, for the most part, going to be fading Mike Gesicki. Does not make me feel good, but there are two other tight ends that we will discuss later on that I'm going to have all my exposure to. And the other worry is we just need to send up a prayer to the man upstairs that Miami can keep this thing close because, I know Russ is cooking. They're letting him cook. But let's be honest, that coaching staff really likes to run the ball. And if they have an excuse to do that, going up by 14 points early or something crazy like that, yeah, Russ might throw 2 early touchdowns, but then what happens if Carson gets involved? So we really need Miami to keep this thing close, which is maybe a tough ask. And, for that reason, I'm a little nervous, but I just think all these games for Seattle have blow-up potential. We've seen it the first 3 weeks. Granted, they're a little bit better offenses than Miami has shown, but I think I'm going to have a lot of Fitz, Parker, and Metcalf and just play that game that way and, hope that the odds are in my favor. So I feel like those are the best plays. Fitz is so cheap. He's in the $5,000 range on DraftKings. Metcalf is expensive, but Parker's super cheap. So you can kind of stack all three of those together in that game and still have exposure without going all in. And, if I'm not playing Fitz, I feel like I have to play a few lineups with Russ just on the other side, just in case he blows up again. And I'm probably, I hate to say this, but I'm probably fading Lockett. I'm probably just going all in with Metcalf again, like the same theory we did last week.
Yeah, and your concern's warranted too in terms of if it does get out of hand, Seattle just running the ball, especially because Seattle does run the third slowest plays currently thus far this year. If they do get that far out, and it looks like Carson is trending towards playing this week.
Boo.
The last thing, yeah, if Fitzpatrick can't keep his end of the deal, we're looking at probably Seattle running the ball, draining clock, and all those stacks that you have in your lineups all going to bust if the Dolphins can't keep their end of the bargain here.
From a fan perspective, the good news is you'll know in the first quarter what kind of game it's going to be, because Fitzpatrick, when he is on, he is lighting it up. And when he is off, he is really bad. So if he throws like a pick six early or something crazy like that, you might as well just, hope that some of your other lineups are the ones that are going to carry you for the week, because this game is going to not be a good game script for us. So yep. I feel like we, broke that down pretty well. Do we have anything else to say on this one, or we want to move on to the next one?
I think we covered it all. Just again, just keep in mind, just hopefully Fitzpatrick lives up to his end of the bargain. It's a good game. It's a promising game, but there's ways where that game can really bust there. Let's move on to Arizona and Carolina. Arizona comes in. I would say probably one of Kyler Murray's worst games as a professional. 3 picks. Definitely a game they should have won against the Lions, but they just let it get away. Carolina comes in after an unexpected win on the West Coast against a Chargers team that many would have thought they were going to probably be blown out. So we got injury news. Nuke Hopkins hasn't practiced all week. That's going to be something that's going to come down to a game time decision come 11:30. On the Carolina side of the ball, they look relatively healthy on offense. This game looks to be the Kenyon Drake game in terms of projected ownership. Carolina's allowed a floor of 27.6 fantasy points per week each of the first 3 weeks thus far.
Oh my gosh.
So if there was ever a spot Kenyon Drake was going to get right, and especially if Nuke does sit, this is the week. This could be the week for him.
Do we think Drake's going to be super popular? Do we think he'll go a little under the radar? What's his expected ownership like?
He's looking at 15%. We did talk about this. It's becoming how you would play the tight end against the Cardinals last year. The Panthers are just that bad against running backs. It's a flow chart item at this point. I'm going to play the running back against the Panthers until they show me otherwise. I'm going to do it this week, regardless of ownership on that one. They've just been so susceptible.
Absolutely. And on the flip side, you and I have kind of discussed DJ Moore is just too cheap on DraftKings. And I think for that reason, it seems like his projected ownership's a little higher than what we wanted it to be, because I thought that was going to be a nice little stack between DJ Moore and Drake. I would still recommend doing that, because I think those ownership projections are just a tad bit off. And I think this week in particular, with all these games having such high over-under totals, I don't think there's going to be like a complete just flock of the masses to a certain game. I think people are way more likely to play Dallas and play guys from Seattle than they would from from this game. So I'm hoping that we can just get them in the teens for ownership, and then DJ Moore is still a good play. Everybody thinks that Patrick Peterson follows guys, but he's been playing one side mostly from what I've looked at, right? I mean, am I wrong on that? Do you have any idea?
Patrick Peterson's he's still one of the venerable quarterbacks, but it's definitely not the Patrick Peterson of like 2015, 2016 anymore. I guess going back to the DJ Moore point, I guess if this was DFS probably like 3-4 years ago, you would see his projection probably a lot lower. But I mean, the air yards have been there. I mean, the targets have been there. It's just a matter of time before Moore does have that big game. And in a game where, Arizona is going to run their pace of play the same way, whether they're up a lead, whether they're trailing, they play at probably the same rate regardless of game script. The best outcome we would want in this game is Carolina to play from behind, not by too much, because of the 13th quickest offense when leading or trailing by 6. I can see Mike Davis. Mike Davis has been pretty much utilized in the Christian McCaffrey role. He's seen 8.5 targets in both weeks. Christian McCaffrey has been hurt. And Arizona has been giving up the 5th most fantasy points to receiving backs. I can see that being an avenue that the Panthers will take, considering Teddy doesn't really throw the ball too deep. Averages about like 9 yards per pass and throughout his career.
I think Mike Davis is a really good play, and I haven't considered him as much as maybe I should. Do we have expected ownership on him?
Look at the 4th or 5th highest running back for the week. He's right at 20%.
Is he higher than Drake?
He's right about. They're both at 19. My 19. Oh, actually, you know what? No, Mike Davis is projected for higher, which I'm shocked about. Actually, They're only 300 off. You would have thought I would have thought Drake would have garnered more ownership, but yeah, it looks like Mike Davis is looking like to be the higher owned right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's had like 8 targets, I think, the last 2 weeks, both weeks, 8+ targets. So Teddy's looking to him. It's almost like he thinks that he's Christian McCaffrey. I mean, he's just throwing it to him just as much as they did when CMC was there. So Mike Davis is a good play. He's still pretty cheap. I could see going there if you wanted to fade Drake. I would not play both running backs from this game. You just need too many things to go right in a game script to where both running backs are going to be viable. It's just not the best play. As great as it does seem, it's just not a good from a overall plays perspective, game theory, game script, everything. It's just not a good play to play both. So pick one or the other would be my recommendation, and just kind of roll with whichever guy you like most. I think I'm probably going to end up with a lot more Drake just because he's lower expected ownership, and I really think he has a chance to break out against this defense that is just giving up running back points. So I think that pretty much does it here. I'm fading Kyler. Even if Nuke plays, I still think I'm fading Kyler. Just too many other good running or quarterbacks that I like on this slate. And I like Drake too much to want to play passing game options in this game. So it's DJ Moore, it's Mike Davis, it's Kenyon Drake for me, and that's it.
So let's go on to the Vikings at the Texans. From a line movement perspective, this line, the game total has gone up 4 points since open. It started at 49.5. It has gone up to 53.5. It's very similar to how that game total went up for the Tennessee-Minnesota game last week. So we have Minnesota coming in. They kept it close with the Titans, but they ultimately end up losing, going 0-3. Dalvin Cook, Justin Jefferson, as Jesse mentioned earlier in the podcast, big games for Minnesota. One thing of note on the Minnesota side of the ball, because of the whole coronavirus thing going on with the Titans, they had not practiced until today, so they're coming in after 1 day of practice. I don't know what tomorrow looks like. They're just going to have a walkthrough or what's going on there, but something to keep in mind in regards to the Vikings side of the ball. The Texans finally get out of that gauntlet of the schedule they started with, having to start with the Chiefs, having to start with the Ravens, having to start with the Steelers. That is tough for any team to have to endure, but this schedule really softens up now, and it starts with Minnesota, a team that has been just simply thrashed by the Packers already, by the Titans last week. People have had their way with this Vikings defense. That's just not the same as it's been in the years prior. I mean, secondary is completely fully turned over. The front seven has just been beaten up. Yeah, they now have Yannick, but they're still missing Daniel Hunter. From a Jesse was talking about this guy, and he is loving him some David Johnson this weekend for good reason. He had a very good week 1, but when you have to go against Baltimore and Pittsburgh's defenses, I mean, it's just natural that he was going to have some tough weeks. But this week for David Johnson, not just David Johnson, this whole Texan offense, this is a great rebound spot for that offense heading into this game.
Yes. So this was another quarterback option I discussed why I wanted to fade Kyler. I really like Watson in this matchup. We have Fuller is not fully healthy. It looks like there's some uncertainty there, but his injury designation got taken off today. So he's a go. It's just whether or not you feel, are you feeling lucky? Are you feeling
nervous? Oh
my gosh. I was all in on him with Devontae Parker earlier this week, as we discussed. And then that injury news came down Thursday. Worried me a little bit, and I think I might be on Cooks a lot more this week, even though I know he's going to be super popular because he's only at 4,500 at DraftKings. I don't know why he is at 4,500, but he is, and I feel like it's just a super good bargain. Can't really go away from him if you're looking for that salary relief. And then, like you mentioned, I really do like me some David Johnson this week. Minnesota's been giving up production in all facets of that defense. And I feel like David Johnson's being slept on a bit. Their first 3 games in their schedule for Houston were absolutely brutal as far as playing defenses. The Chiefs were really good. They've proven to be a good defense. They shut down Lamar and company last week. They had Pittsburgh. I mean, they've had quite a few hard fought matchups, and I think they even played Baltimore as well, didn't they? I mean, these are tough defenses. So the game script just never went in David Johnson's way. I mean, they were falling behind early, and they were having to play catch up. And Justin's chiming in here. Jordan Akins, second most tight end snaps out of the slot. I really like that. I mentioned it to you, Joe, earlier today, that I kind of liked Akins as a really cheap option. I think he's like 30. He's in the 3,000 range as a cheap option in the passing game for Houston as well in that tight end position. I like somebody else now more that we will talk about here soon due to some injury news. But that being said, I don't think Jordan Akins is a bad play, but I really do like David Johnson as a bounce back spot. As we discussed last week was really a 3 running back in the lineup type week where you play running back at flex. And I think this week's setting up for that as well. And for that reason, I'm probably going to have a lot of David Johnson, a lot of Kenyon Drake. So that's kind of the route I'm going.
Yeah, like you said, there's a lot of bargains at both running back and wide receiver where the 3 running back ideal scenario is definitely in play again this week.
Do you like Justin Jefferson at all? He's 5,200 over there on DraftKings.
I like the price. I just think he's going to be uber owned again. Just because people.
Really?
He had what was it 7-1-75-1. People are going to be. It's going to be like Lockett. They're going to get all over him. I want to fade him this week.
You think Thielen's the play if you're stacking that game?
Like we say, I'm going to zag when they zig. I like Thielen more just based. Could I see Jefferson have another game like that? Sure. The Houston defense is very intimidating. I could see it. I just want to be on the lower end side on this one here.
Yeah, Thielen's better. Let's just be honest. Jefferson's a great young talent, but Thielen's a better wide receiver, and he oftentimes plays in the slot to get good matchups and everything else. So, yeah, I think I will probably fade Jefferson if he's going to be super popular. With DJ Moore and Brandon Cooks being really cheap as well, I'll probably just go that route. I know those guys are going to be pretty popular as well, but I'm just going to play the safer option. So that's kind of what I'm looking at in this game. I don't know how I feel about it being overweight. I think this is going to be a game where I just stack the hell out of Houston, or I just play David Johnson from this game, and that's about it.
One positive note for Dalvin Cook, he had only seen 2 targets per game through the first 2. He did see 5 targets last week, so it was nice to see him get some of that backfield work again because he didn't really need the backfield work last week. He only ran for 181 yards, but it raises the ceiling when he's getting those receptions. Just something to keep in mind. So it was good to see that.
I don't want to talk anybody out of Dalvin Cook, and he wasn't surprisingly on the injury report this week, but I don't know if you watched any of that game. Late in the game, he limped off and he had to hop on one leg just to get over to the sideline the whole time. Madison came in and he kind of finished up work there, and then somehow he just never made the injury designation this week. So you know how Cook goes with his injuries. He does have a propensity to get nicked up. So I think I'm fading Cook just I want to see if he's back healthy again. I don't fully trust that, even though it's a good matchup.
Yeah, there's people that had Madison stashed on their benches were getting real excited coming that fourth quarter last week. It was like, uh-oh, here it comes. We're about to cash in.
Yep. All right, I think we're ready for the next game.
All right, our final game we're going to discuss today is the Patriots and the Chiefs. Patriots come into this game after a very thorough beating of the Raiders. Kansas City absolutely dominated Baltimore. Baltimore probably was the favorite headed in, even over the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. The Chiefs thoroughly handled them. So in this game, you have Cam at 6,400. He's another one of those quarterbacks that we like that is not in that Lamar, Russell, Kyler, Dak range. 6,400 is definitely affordable. From the Kansas City side of the ball, we have Mahomes at 74. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, what are you thinking about him this week? I like it. I do like it. I don't love it, but I can get myself. I see myself getting some exposure on him.
Yeah, I like the contrarian nature of him because he's definitely going to go under-owned. And Robinson for Jacksonville is even priced higher at him. I know he's in a better matchup against Cincinnati, but I would definitely rather play CEH over Robinson, given the difference in the projected ownership and the price. I can't put my finger on this game. I don't think I'm going to have as much exposure as I probably should. I don't know what it is.
One thing we were talking about on the side, I mean, positive, negative game script are going to dictate how things go, but just looking at how week 2 went against the Seahawks, it feels like when the Patriots are winning, it's simple. They're just going to run the ball. That's all, and that's all they're going to do. Even last week, Cam threw the ball 19 times versus that they were trailing against the Seahawks most of that game. Cam's throwing 43 times. I could see a scenario where the Chiefs are going to get out to a lead where Cam's going to have to throw the ball, which is what we want in terms of getting that shootout scenario that we're looking for here. Which brings me to N'Keal Harry at 4,000 and Damian Byrd at 3,000. If you're looking for cheap options in a game that has one of the highest totals on the board here, you're going to get them at low ownership. And going back to that Seattle game again, Cam looked to each one of his receivers, Edelman, Byrd, and Harry, at least 6 times. And to get 6 targets at $3,000, I mean, that's pretty solid. He's going to bring those catches in. Just something to consider if you're trying to go jam those running backs in, get the Kamaras, the Zekes, and the Drakes in the one lineup.
Yeah, a name that's not getting talked about a lot, and I'm gonna play the sentimental game here and play the narrative street. James White, man, he could be a factor in this game. If they get down, I know Burkhead had the blow-up week last week, and I know James White's kind of been out of people's minds because he hasn't played the last 2 weeks. But I'm telling you, these Patriots, the staff knows his game, and they know how to put him in mismatches, especially down inside like the 10, 15-yard line. I could easily see a scenario where he's scoring a receiving touchdown down there towards the goal line. And I don't know, if you want something to root for, how could you not root for James White? So I feel like in this game, he's 5,200 on DraftKings, going to be way low owned. I think he was like 1 or 2% projected ownership based on last time I looked at your sheet. I don't know. I think I would probably, if I'm playing anybody in this game, it's probably James White or it's probably Edelman, one or the two, just because I know the Chiefs have struggled with slot receivers in the past. But other than that, and I'd probably stack James White with Cam, that type of thing. So that's about all. It's really hard to say, no, I don't ever want to play Mahomes or anybody on this Chiefs offense. But I just feel like there are going to be way better matchups throughout the year to where we can use them. I know Mahomes has beat this Patriots defense in the past, and he's liable to blow up. Maybe this is the contrarian play of the week. I don't know. I don't see myself having a whole lot of it for some reason.
And it's hard to go wrong with that Chiefs offense. I mean, just seeing them go right through the Ravens last week, I was like, wow, impressive. But should I really be surprised? Man, they're that good.
Yeah, they're so good. What do you think you're going to have? Do you think you'll have exposure to that game or no?
I don't want to have too much exposure to some of those cheap guys, but I do at the same time. It's tough. I guess the question is, one question we need to ask ourselves, who is Bill Belichick going to try to take out of this game? Because it's either going to be either Tyreek Hill or Kelsey, in my opinion. It's just, who is it going to be? I could probably more or less see it being Kelsey.
That's where I was leaning as well. I think he has even taken Kelsey out in the past. Maybe my memory serves incorrect, but I'm pretty sure they've made a concerted effort to blanket Kelsey in the past. So I feel like that might be the move.
Yeah, it's just tough because you want to get Kelsey. We were talking about this too. It's been a pretty rough year with tight ends so far this year because it was Mark Andrews week 1, week 2, and week 3. Who was it last week? Who was it? Well, Gesicki had the big week in week 2. I started too much Logan Thomas last week, and that burned me. I think it's killing Logan Thomas is just he just doesn't have quarterback throwing on the ball.
But he had 1 catch for 1 yard and a touchdown. I got really lucky on that Hurst touchdown.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, that's who I went to a little more often than I thought I was going to heading into the week. I went Logan Thomas and I went Hurst, and I think I might have went Ali Cox in one lineup, but not enough. He was another good play. So yeah, tight end has really been tough to predict this year. So more often than not, we're going to pay down. Speaking of pay down, since we're on this topic, do you want to I guess, wrap up anything with this game? Do you have any other thoughts?
Nah, we've covered it all here. We're good.
All right, I know we're kind of skipping around, but we really did. There are two other games on this slate that I feel like that we need to touch on at least a little bit. And the first one is New Orleans and Detroit. That game has a potential to shoot out as well. It's in a dome as well, even though it's not in New Orleans. It's still in a dome, so good playing conditions there. And we don't have Mike Thomas, so that means Kamara is going to be peppered with targets. I think I'm probably going to have 100% ownership of Kamara, or 95% or something in that realm, because he's only 8,000 with that Sunday night game. Was it Sunday night or was it Monday night?
You're right. Yeah, he's at Sunday night pricing right now. 8,000 is too cheap for the productions he's been seeing. That's incredible.
Yeah, so I'm going to have Kamara, and I'm going to have my boy, and I wanted to highlight this. UD, go Flyers, University of Dayton, baby.
Let's get it. Go ahead.
Adam Troutman at tight end. This is the week. Jared Cook is out for the Saints as well, officially, and Troutman is at 2,500 over there on DraftKings. Allows you to get a lot of expensive options, or just an idea, a way to pivot. And as we discussed in text, this is a tough week for defense as well. It's really hard to go really cheap, or at least it doesn't feel good to go really cheap. And I feel like most of my ownership is going to be over the 3,000 mark for defense. So when you're going up that high for defense, which I hate to do, by the way, it really hinders your ability to go up in prices, and you do have to find these bargains. And I feel like Troutman is the play. I feel like he has to be the play. It's either Troutman or Akins on that cheap end, or we're going on the other side of this game. And I really like TJ Hawkinson this week as well at tight end. He jumped up to like 90% of the snap shares, routes, everything. His involvement went up a ton, and with Galladay back, the efficiency of that offense is going up as well. So his touchdown opportunities are going to go up. So I really like either of the tight ends in this game. That's probably the way I'm going. Almost 100% of my lineups, I'm going to have either Hawkinson or Troutman.
Yeah, both solid plays this week. I guess the only other tight end I would bring up is Dalton Schultz. Gets Cleveland this week. Dak's looking at him in the red zone the most out of anybody thus far. He has 4 red zone targets, which leads that Dallas team. But Again, another option to look at if you're looking to go. Well, it's not necessarily cheap, but he is. I think he's 4,600, but definitely a good option against a Browns team that has struggled at the position thus far, and honestly struggled at the position since 2018.
Absolutely. Are you playing anybody else from this game, or are those the pieces you're looking to go towards?
Like you said, the chalk running back hasn't lived up to expectations, but I have a feeling that's going to change this week with both Alvin Kamara and Kenyon Drake. I think both of them are going to do what they're expected to do this week. It's going to be very hard to get off them.
Because that Detroit offense has the possibility on the other side to keep it a shootout type game that we need. We don't want this game going up. We don't want the Saints going up by 14 points early. That way it limits Kamara's reception totals and targets and everything else. So we definitely want Detroit to keep this close, and they have the potential to do that. In the last couple of weeks, we've had chalk scenarios for the running back in which the other side just had terrible offenses with the Jets and Jonathan Taylor and I think a few others. Maybe did we have the exact same scenario with Derrick Henry the week before? Was he playing the Jets or was he? No, he was playing the Jags, I think. And that game script just didn't go the way that we thought. There's just too much downside playing running backs in game scripts that you have like 10-point favorites. You just never know how the game's going to go. It's either going to be an upset from the other side because they, just looked over the team and didn't put in the effort and practice during the week, and they don't really want to be out there. Those players are human too. It's hard to get up for those types of games. So there's just too much downside in matchups like that. And if you want to play a chalk running back, you have to play it in one that you think has shootout potential. And this definitely has that. So it's going to be pretty hard to fade Kamara in this matchup. Let's move on to the last matchup that we should probably highlight a little bit, and that's Dallas and Cleveland. Now, this game could go 3 or 4 different ways, and I'm not sure which way I think it could go. Cleveland's going to want to run the ball. We know they're going to want to play ball control, especially with this high-powered offense in Dallas. We know Dallas is playing fast, so Cleveland might have to they might have a few more plays than they normally would. Do you have a feel for this one, how it's going to play out? Do you have exposure in this game? What are your thoughts on the Dallas-Cleveland matchup?
I was talking to a buddy actually about this. I think it was Wednesday. It's like the worst thing that could happen is the Browns getting the ball first. Because what are the Browns going to do? They're going to try to establish the run. They're going to try to go for that long 8-9 minute drive to start the game, and then there's a quarter of the half already done. That's like the worst thing that could happen to start that game, especially if they do get that lead too. Ideally, we want the Cowboys to get the ball first, and they set their brand of football they want to play. They're going to throw the ball. I mean, the Browns have become somewhat of a funnel where they have stopped the run pretty efficiently, where Dak's going to probably throw the ball a little bit more than he would typically against one of those, bottom feeder rush defenses. But yeah, so
is Denzel Ward back this week? Do you know?
I haven't seen anything that says he's going to play this week. I don't think so, but I'd have to look.
Okay, yeah, I think I'm likely to go back to CeeDee Lamb this week and probably fade Gallup after the huge week. I don't know. It's really hard to play Cooper away from home. So for me, I'm probably going to CeeDee if I'm going with an option in the Dallas matchup. Yeah, Tick season saying Dallas will always defer.
Yeah, that's not what we want there, but he's right. That's true. Eagles do the same thing.
So obviously this doesn't really set up to be a Chubb game unless they do get the ball and they run it down their throat and they are able to control this game. Hunt's been hurt a lot of the week. I mean, he had that groin injury and he's questionable going into the week. It doesn't sound, it sounds like he's going to play, but it doesn't sound great as far as his overall health goes. I told you early in the week I really liked OBJ in this matchup because Dallas could get torched by him and they might have to, throw it a little bit more than they normally would and have more plays, et cetera, et cetera. I'm not sure how I feel about that anymore with him coming down with that back injury on the injury report.
Yeah,
he's fine, but I just never like to see late week injury report designations. So I don't really know which way I'm going about this game. I'm probably going to be fading it for the most part, just because there are so many different types of scenarios game script wise that this game could go. Maybe I'm stacking Dak with CeeDee Lamb, or maybe I'm just playing CeeDee Lamb by himself. That's probably the only thing I'm doing here. Well, I guess we mentioned Schultz. He's a pretty good play.
I just don't see this. The Cowboys' offense is that prolific, but their defense
game is in Dallas.
Bad. Yeah, that game's in Dallas. I just don't see the Cowboys' defense being that good enough where the Browns can't compete. I mean, if the Browns can play their brand of ball, which is going to drain clock, I mean, it's just going to be so hard to get the fantasy outcomes that we want to happen in this game. I mean, I think the game total is like 52, 53. If I was going to take a side on that, I'm going under on that just based on how the Browns like to play.
Man, I feel like an idiot saying that. I didn't even know if it was in Dallas or in Cleveland. What's Amari's price? I haven't even looked at him.
Yeah, so Amari's price, I'll get that for you. But yeah, for the Cowboys, this is the first of a 3-game homestand for them too. That season plays the Giants next week. Then they get those Cardinals in week 6 on Monday Night Football. It sucks they're going to be off the main slate, though. That's the one negative. So Cooper's at 6,700.
Wow, that's kind of expensive. That's got to be like 6th or 7th more, the most expensive of the week.
Yeah, he went up 200 from last week, and he is the wide receiver 8 in terms of price this week.
As far as ownership, do we have that number?
None of the Cowboys are projecting as well as they did last week. I can get you an exact in a few seconds, but
yeah, gosh, this game is so tough for me to figure out, man. I could be totally wrong, and this game could just blow up. I mean, the only person on the Brown side that I want is OBJ. I'll say that.
Yeah, it's like we said with the Seattle-Miami game, there's so many ways to get it right, but if you're going to play people from this game, you have to get it right. Like you said, Michael Gallup, he had his week. people probably going to look to him again. I'm going to get off that. But Amari Cooper's home road splits, like you mentioned, they're just too good at AT&T Stadium. I mean, I definitely I'm going to have him in some rosters. I just don't think I'm going to go overweight on this game.
Yeah. Do you think you'll be pretty overweight on Schultz? Like, do you think he's in your top 2-3 options probably for the week?
Yeah, in terms of tight end, I think my top 3 at this point now are, it's looking like Schultz. Here, let me get that app open. Yeah, it's definitely Schultz. Yeah, we got Schultz here. Darren Waller, I do like his situation. I think I like his safety more than you do, and Hawkinson. Those are probably my primary 4. And if I really wanted to go cheap again, I guess the one hole in the Baltimore offense is against the tight end. So maybe Logan Thomas finds some success, but I just find it hard to believe. I know it's so hard to go back to that well. I just don't think he's going to succeed until they eventually, if they do, go to Kyle Allen, or man, if Alex Smith can come back after what he's been through, that'd be one heck of a story. But yeah, I think Logan Thomas' ceiling, it's just hindered with Dwayne Haskins as quarterback, and it sucks because Logan Thomas he's run so many routes on so many of his dropbacks, gotten so many targets, it just hasn't amounted to the stat sheet. It just hasn't worked.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, well let's end these. Let's just rapid fire our faves and our fades of plays of the week. So at quarterback, I'm going Russ. I'm going Fitzpatrick. I'm going Deshaun Watson, and I'm sprinkling in Cam. Oh, I guess we didn't even talk about this. And this is the more this week goes on, the more I'm likely to play this game. We haven't even discussed the Bills.
I think I know where you're going
with
Raiders. This. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Like, is Josh Allen just not going to be played again? If so, I'm going to stack Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs. John Brown has been out most of practice all week. Now it sounds like he's going to play, but Diggs has a great matchup. Josh Allen has been unbelievable this season. If they're going to go under own, I'm playing him. I'm going to play him over Cam.
I see it. I mean, I'm surprised Cam didn't have more success than I thought he would last week. Could I see Josh Allen having success on the ground against the Raiders? Absolutely. In terms of Devin Singletary, it looks like Zach Moss is going to play this game, which I wanted a piece of Devin Singletary had Zach Moss been out. Of course, I mean, Las Vegas has been totally destroyed by running backs through 3 weeks. I mean, absolutely gashed. If it wasn't Alvin Kamara week 2, it was Burkhead and Michelle last week. It's tough. I mean, Singletary has such a great matchup, but his ceiling's limited if Moss plays this game too. And it looks like he's on track to do that.
Yeah. So, if the weekend progresses and we're getting lower and lower ownership on Josh Allen, I'm telling you, him and Diggs are going to be one of my highest owned stacks of the week. I love that matchup. We've mentioned some others in the article. We'll leave that for the article. Make sure you're checking that out. Fantasy Coaches will probably release that tomorrow morning on their Twitter. So make sure you're checking out our DFS Darlings article for week 4. But that was quarterback for me as far as my favorite guys. Running back, Kenyon Drake, Kamara, David Johnson, maybe some Mike Davis.
A guy that I think might be in a nice spot, and it's probably one of the rare spots he's going to be in, is Joe Mixon against Jacksonville. If he can't get it right this week, I just don't know.
Yeah, don't.
I know.
Start Devin. Ugly. Get out of here. Coach Steve with his Devin Singletary love. He just can't stop it.
Add Darrell Henderson to that list, too, against the Giants. That game can get out of hand where he's just going to get fed the ball.
This is a Devin Singletary hate group here, so we're not gonna be on Devin Singletary. Coach Steve can play him in all of his redraft and dynasty leagues because I'm sure he has about an 80% ownership. But I think in DFS you can likely fade Singletary. As good of a week he had last week, he's allergic to the end zone, dude. Josh Allen doesn't allow him to get into the end zone. It's going to be Zach Moss or it's going to be Josh Allen. Yeah. On the ground or in the air. Singletary's touchdown upside is just so low that I can't play him in daily. Now, if you want to play him in redraft league, I don't mind that. He's in a pretty good spot, but the upside isn't there for a DFS lineup. Let's move on to wide receiver. Wide receiver faves. Not Nuke anymore.
Yeah.
Probably Metcalf. Definitely Devontae Parker, Stephon Diggs. We just mentioned DJ Moore, Brandon Cooks. That's probably
Don't forget about
maybe
your boy
Cooper now.
Metcalf. Get Metcalf in there.
Yeah, definitely Metcalf. I thought I mentioned him. If I didn't, definitely Metcalf, but maybe Cooper and CD now that we're thinking about it more. Now that I actually know the game is in Dallas, I think they're decent plays as well. So I'd like to mention them. But other than that, it's pretty condensed at the wide receiver position this week, which I actually kind of like.
One play, if you want to consider it, I mean, especially it looks like, well, Henry Ruggs has already been declared out, and Byron Edwards is trending towards not playing. Hunter Renfrow at 4,600. I mean, it's going to be him and Waller getting the targets. I mean, maybe a sprinkle of Zay Jones, maybe Nelson Aguilar, but Renfrow has a nice matchup against the Bills. When you have Tre'Davious White, he hasn't lined up in the slot once, and that's where Renfrow spends 75% of his snaps. So he's going to miss White on quite a bit of his plays. So somebody to consider if you want to go cheap, and one's going to see targets.
Yeah, I told you via text that call makes me throw up a little bit just because it's such a great play. It is such a great, all the scenarios that you mentioned, so accurate. Everything points to a great game from Renfrow, and yet I just don't trust Carr. He throws his touchdowns to the third fullback on the roster, and I mean, it's just, you never know what to expect from a Raiders perspective. So, moving on to tight end, it's basically Waller, Hawkinson, Schultz, Troutman, Akins for me.
No, I have nobody else to add to that list. Hopefully, once we get to week 5, week 6, tight end kind of starts to open up a little bit, but it's been slim picking so far this year. That's been the toughest position thus far. Like we had mentioned earlier, it's been really, really, really tough to identify somebody that is going to produce at that price. I mean, all the higher end tight ends, I mean, it's just so hard to get up to them if you're trying to jam in 3 running backs, if you're trying to get in 4 good receivers. It's just so hard. And actually, I was even looking over some number fire perfect lineup trends. I sent you the sheet for last year and this year. And in week 2, the Million Maker actually had double tight ends. He went with Kelsey and Jordan Reed. That actually ended up winning $1 million. He had both of them in there.
Wow.
It's
Jordan Reed winning a Millionaire Maker in the year 2020.
Yes, he did. Yeah, him and Kelsey, the winner had paired.
Wow, that's incredible. All right, well, we're at 47 minutes. I think we have about 10 minutes to spare here. Do you want to rapid fire and try to put together a lineup live on the air?
Yeah, let's go. Let's do it.
What do you think? You think tournament or 50-50 cash game type lineup?
Let's do 50-50. And let's put our free spaces in. I mean, you have to go Kamara. You got to go Kenyon Drake. And from there,
think he's a free space?
All right. So where do you want to go from here at this point? Let's go to get a receiver here.
I mean, if we're playing free spaces, I feel like in a cash game, I was going to say Brandon Cooks at 4,500 is just way too cheap.
I would agree with that.
He's not a great cash game type player, so it kind of worries me a little bit. But do you want to go with him?
Yeah, why not? I mean, I do like him being $1,400 off of Will Fuller, who's probably going to be highly owned too. It just feels like the right spot for him to blow up. But I mean, just like everybody else in that Texas offense, I mean, they got to get it together at some point. I mean, he had such a rough year with the Rams last year, and I mean, hopefully he can start turning it around this week. I mean, it's such a great matchup for him. Just hopefully he sees the targets. That's just been the problem. He hasn't seen the targets.
Yeah, and I think now he's, at least the argument we can make is, they've had 4 games together or 3 games together now with Watson. Maybe they're getting a little more chemistry and those types of things. So at 4,500, he doesn't take too much to pay off that price. I mean, we're just looking for a 7 for 80 day or a 6 for an 80 day or something like that, and we'll be perfectly happy with that. So, all right. So we have Kamara, we have Drake, we have Cooks.
It's Kind of hard to get off
What else?
Devontae Parker against the worst secondary in football.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm going Parker as well.
So we got 5 positions to fill. We have 5,100 left.
Yeah.
Or I mean, 5,100 per position. So we got 26,000 left.
Is Troutman, with him being that cheap, with a little more uncertainty, is he not the cash game type play? Do we want to go with a safer option like Hawkinson or Waller or something? Or do we just want to take the cheaper route? What do we want to do at tight end?
Man, there's a lot of variance with Troutman. I love the idea of starting him, but I think he's more of a GPP option for me.
Okay. You just want to go with Hawkinson at 48? You feeling somebody else?
Excuse me. Hawkinson, I love Hawkinson this week. This is the game for him. I really like. I guess if we're gonna have they used to do conviction plays on the one podcast I used to listen to, but I mean, if there's a conviction play, this is it. This is his week.
I can go with that. All right, so we have a wide receiver, a flex, a defense, and a quarterback. Do we want to just pick a defense so we get that out of the way?
I guess the question is, how cheap do you want to go?
Ravens against Washington is going to be – I don't know how popular it's going to be, but my God, they are going to demolish them. The Rams
and they're a pissed-off team coming in this week too, losing to the Chiefs. So, yeah.
Yep. The Rams are at 3,900 against the Giants. I really like them. I kind of like the Buccaneers against the rookie quarterback in Herbert as well at 3,400. That's probably about the cheapest I'm willing to go. I don't see anybody else that I really love down here.
Yeah, that's probably about. I mean, I guess when you consider what the Vikings have been through this week in terms of preparing for this game, I mean, I don't know what Viking team's coming into Houston, especially because they got to travel to that game as well on Sunday after this not practice this week. I mean, I think that's the cheapest I would go, and I think I would do that more in tournaments, but I do kind of like the Texans from that perspective. Granted, I don't love the Texans defense at all, but just looking at how Minnesota has endured this crazy week that they have, I can see them coming in a little bit unprepared.
Yeah, they're 2,500. So what route do we want to go on defense?
I like your call on going the defense against the rookie. Let's put in the Bucks.
Okay.
So that now leaves us with about 5,900 left per position for the last three. We got a flex, we got a receiver, and we got a quarterback. I feel like we should get the quarterback on.
Okay. Actually, you know what? I'm looking at flexes just because I feel like this quarterback and wide receiver last spot we might want to save to do like either a stack or like a stack on the opposite type game. I mean, if we're going 3 running backs, in my opinion, it's either a guy like Robinson against Cincinnati as a cash game, or we're going down to Mike Davis, or we're going to David Johnson, or we're going to Henderson. I don't love playing Mike Davis and Drake in the same lineup. Do we feel one way or the other? Do we want to go Drake over Davis in cash, or do we want to go Davis over Drake? I feel like we can't play both.
Yeah, I see it both ways here. It's because you're right. It's just so rare both running backs cash in. I mean, you can go back to week 1 where Josh Jacobs and Christian McCaffrey both had good weeks, but that's just so rare how that works out. If we do go the David Johnson route, we're setting ourselves up for a nice Houston stack where going David Johnson pretty much sells us on getting Deshaun Watson in a very good matchup this week, by the way, too.
Okay. He's got that rushing upside too, which is kind of what we look for in DFS, especially
Absolutely.
Cash just gives us that floor. Okay. So we want to go David Johnson. We want to go Watson. And we have Cooks as well. So we have Cooks, Watson, and Johnson all from the same lineup. If we're going to do that, we have 5,400 left at the third wide receiver spot. Talked about my boy CD.
There he is. Yep, 54, right on the dot.
Who else do we have? Nobody I'm loving down this way. Yeah, it's CD for me probably.
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I see Justin Jefferson at 5,200, but I'm a little wary. I want to see him do it 2 weeks in a row first. His ownership's just going to be too high for me to get on that boat this week.
Do you worry that we have too much Houston exposure in a cash game?
Yeah, I do. Typically, I want to I would do your quarterback wide receiver stacks more in cash, not like so much your quarterback, running back, wide receiver. That's more GPP philosophy for me, but I could see a path to success with this. Minnesota's defense is just so terrible thus far. But yeah, that does concern me a little bit. But in terms of the actual lineup, I mean, I'm pretty happy with this. It turned out actually really good. We left nothing on the board. Yeah, we used every dollar.
The only thing, if you wanted to pivot and go away from David Johnson and you just wanted to keep Watson, and I know this is going away from our 3 running back theory, but DJ Moore's at 5,600 as well.
Oh yeah, that's a good call. Yeah, because like we said earlier, it's just a matter of time. I'm just surprised he's projected ownership. Again, I'm just surprised at his high it's going to be. He's currently projected to be the second highest owned receiver. I just can't believe that. But the DFS community has gotten so much smarter. I mean, that's just a credit to them. But
do we have anybody in this cash game lineup that's going to be under 20%?
Devontae Parker might be the only one. Him and CeeDee Lamb.
Yeah. Yeah, you might be right. What's David Johnson's projected? Do you have that in front of you?
Give me a second. I believe he's 11.
Okay.
I had it here. Give me a minute.
Man, that's tough.
Yeah, 11%. 11.
That's tough. Do you want to go down in the ownership and play 3 guys from the same team, or do you want to go up in ownership and get a little bit different exposure?
Let's go DJ Moore here. Kind of get off that kind of like super stack there. That's more of a GPP thing. And DJ Moore's matchup does. I mean, again, it's not Patrick Peterson of old. It's an older version of that guy. I mean, he like we said earlier, we need that game to kind of go where Arizona kind of like leads that game and forces the Panthers to throw, which I think is going to happen. I mean, especially against the Cardinals, they know they should be 3-0 right now, and they want to get to 3-1. Their schedule toughens up come after next week. They get the Jets next week, then they finally play Seattle. So, I mean, if Arizona's got to start getting their wins, and they need to get it this week, and they need to get it against the Jets.
One thing we didn't really discuss, which I wanted to mention as we close, if Nuke Hopkins is out, I feel like that raises the target floor for Drake a little bit as well. Now, I know that might not be good for the offense in general as far as being able to get first downs, being able to spread the floor, spread the field out to open things up for Drake. Maybe the box is a little bit more condensed, but the offensive coordinator, the head coach there, he does a really good job of scheming things open anyways and playing that. So I don't worry about that too much, but I just wanted to mention that Drake is a little bit better of a play even without Nuke Hopkins, in my opinion. So just to recap things, we have for our cash game lineup, Deshaun Jackson. No, we are not doing that again.
I'm done with that dude this year.
Deshaun Watson at quarterback, Alvin Kamara at running back, Kenyon Drake at running back, Brandon Cooks, wide receiver, Devontae Parker, not Devontae Adams, Devontae Parker, wide receiver, CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver, TJ Hawkinson, tight end. Our flex is DJ Moore, and we're rounding it out with the Bucs defense against the rookie quarterback in Herbert. So I don't mind it. I kind of like that. Just a forewarning for you guys, if you're going to put it in a cash lineup, just put it over to a tournament lineup as well, just in case. I know a lot of these guys are going to be popular. I wouldn't recommend playing them in tournaments a lot, but I hate the feeling of playing a cash game lineup that just blows up and then you don't have it in any of your tournaments. So play this in one tournament as well if you're going to play this cash game lineup. If you do, let us know how it goes. We will be sure to post it on Twitter. Make this a thing each week. I kind of like that. Post our cash game lineup on Twitter, get a little more interaction with the guys. And, if you guys have any questions or feedback, as reaching out to us on Twitter, as you see at the bottom of the screen, at JCrockett24 for me. And for Joe, it's at FFJVAPHL. Make sure you're giving our affiliate sponsors a shout out. As you can see down at the bottom at Unwrapped Sports, we have RX Hemp-USN. That's a CBD deal. We have MyBookie as well. You can use USN 100 for a deposit bonus for MyBookie. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our friends over at Thrive Fantasy, who have an affiliate with the Fantasy Coaches podcast, you can use promo code COACHES to get $20 more added to your bankroll once you deposit. So that does it for this week 4 edition of the DFS Discourse Show. For Joe, I am Jesse. Good luck cashing in your guys' lineups. Best of luck to you. Hope you guys take down some tournaments. See you guys.
See you guys.